What's up? What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Technical Area. This one, the preview show for match week 9. Moving along here in the season. No, this is a soccer podcast, guys. Wearing the Yankees hat, though. Just trying to give them some luck as they go into their game tonight. If you guys are watching on Friday, they'll be playing Game 5 of the ALCS against the Houston Astros. So wishing them some luck, trying to give them some luck with this hat. Hopefully none of you guys out there are offended by it. But moving forward now, getting into match week 9, there's a lot to talk about after the international break. Some teams looking to build off their performances in match week 8. Some teams looking to use the international break as a time to kind of reconfigure things and figure things out. It's going to be another interesting week. They always are. It's the Premier League. Got a lot of shock results in match week 8. Maybe we'll see some more of those here in match week 9 as well. So moving into it, let's get right into the games. And we're going to start off 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. over in England. West Ham taking on Everton at Goodison Park. West Ham currently find themselves in 8th place. Everton way in the relegation zone at 18th place. Not a good look for them. It's been a very bad start for Everton. Just taking a look at last year and some things to get to know as we look at this game. Last year, each side won a game on the road versus each other. So, just something to look at there. West Ham's injuries or suspensions. Lucas Fabianski, hip injury. He'll be out till January, it looks like. And Mikel Antonio, unknown when he'll return. He's still out. Masuaka will return from his suspension this week, it looks like. So he'll get an opportunity to play. On the Everton side, Jean-Philippe Gbamin. He'll actually be out longer now. He's suffered an injury setback. He'll be out even longer, looks like into next calendar year. And then Seamus Coleman received the red card in the last game against Burnley. And he'll be out this week as well. So just taking a look at this matchup, West Ham obviously suffered the loss to Crystal Palace, but other than that have looked really, really good over the course of the season. Everton, quite the opposite. They've won 2 games, I believe, both versus Wolves and versus Watford. Other than that, they've lost their last 4 now. Lost to Bournemouth, Sheffield United, Man City, and Burnley. 2 of them on the road, 2 of them at home. I mean, just to make this one quick, and I think we're going to try and make these quicker because I feel like they've been dragging on along a little bit. I'm going to go with West Ham in this one. I think West Ham win this. I think West Ham have a much more organized, put-together team. Everton are, quite frankly, looking in shambles, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Marco Silva on his way out sometime soon. There are reports that he might have been given 3 games to turn it around. If Everton win this game, it's at home. It wouldn't be surprising if they can start to figure something out. But based on the way they've played and the way West Ham have played, I'm going with a West Ham win in this one. Moving on now to the 10 a.m. slate, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. over in England. We've got the first game, Brighton at Aston Villa. Brighton in 14th place, Aston Villa in 15th. Just to look at the all-time, these guys haven't played each other all too much, 22 games between the two. Brighton is 3-7-12 all-time versus Aston Villa, and they've never won at Aston Villa. They've only drawn at Aston Villa 3 of the 7 times they've drawn in this fixture. They played last year at Brighton while Villa was still in the championship. They played in the League Cup. Aston Villa did win that one 3-1, so a little bit of recency there as well. Taking a look at the injuries and suspensions, Aston Villa, nothing to make note of. Brighton's injuries and suspensions. Davy Proper looks like he's going to be out for a decent amount of time. Shane Duffy, though, could be back, as well as Leandro Trossard, which are 2 huge guys that could return. If they can return, that's going to make all the difference, I think, in this one. I think that if those guys come back, then I think Brighton definitely win this one. If they don't, it's kind of a toss-up. It can go either way. But I'm going to say those guys are back. I'm going to say that Brighton is at full strength basically for this one, other than Davy Proper, and I'm gonna say that Brighton end up winning this one in the end at Aston Villa. I think that if they can get those guys back, the defense will be solid, and Leandro Trossard will offer a lot going forward. Moving on now to Watford at Tottenham. Watford currently sitting in 20th place. I don't believe they've won a game yet all year. No wins this year at all. Only 3 draws and 5 losses. They've looked absolutely terrible over the course of the season. They did draw their last 5 games. They do have 3 draws, so starting to figure out maybe a little bit. But did lose 8-0 to Man City and 2-0 at Wolves. And in the 3 games that they've played on the road in the last 5, they've lost, as I mentioned, those 2, and then drew at Newcastle. So not really great news for Watford, but good news for Watford is that Tottenham hasn't looked too great either. They beat Southampton, I'd say pretty luckily after getting a red card in that game, and have lost at Leicester and at Brighton, their other 2 games in the last 3. Things have been all over the place for this Tottenham team, and just looking at the all-time, Tottenham is 31-9-8 all-time versus Watford. They've only lost once to Watford since 1994. They're 12-3-1 in that span. They won both games last year at home. They played 3 times, I believe once in the League Cup or the FA Cup. They did lose at Watford, but this game is taking place at home. Watford's injuries, Deeney's still out. For Tottenham, it's Serge Aurier still out with the red card. Lo Celso out with the hip injury, and most importantly, it looks like Hugo Lloris will be out with an elbow injury till at least January. That's a very tough blow for them, a team that's already in shambles. This is an interesting one. I don't know. This one, I'm going to have to say, I'm going to shock people here a little bit because I think Tottenham's in shambles. I'm going to say that Watford pull off a draw on the road. I'm going to say they might figure some things out here. Tottenham in shambles, take advantage of that, and Watford get a draw on the road to get a point there. No win for them. They're definitely not going to win this game, I don't think, but I think they can pull out the draw. Moving on now to another 10 a.m. game. Southampton at Wolves. 17th place Southampton taking on Wolverhampton Wolves, who are in 11th place at the Molineux. Southampton picked up their first win versus Wolves since 2007 last year. But 2007 was also the last time Southampton won at Wolves. The win last year came at home for Southampton. They split the series last year. Both teams won at their home fixture, or won their home fixture. No injuries for Southampton to make note of. For Wolves, it's still Jota. We're unknown. It's not known if he's going to be back for this weekend. Southampton haven't looked too bad, overall, but the last 3 games they've lost, all 3 of them only scoring a goal each. Meanwhile, Wolves looking on the up and up. In their last 3 games, they have a draw at Crystal Palace and then a win versus Watford and a win at Manchester City. Just looking at this one, I think that Wolves win it. I think that Wolves offer a lot more going forward. I think that they're a better team overall, and they just had a tough start. And I think they're starting to figure it out now. So I think Wolves come out with the win here, get 3 straight, and keep moving up that table. Moving on now to Newcastle at Chelsea. Another 10 a.m. game. Newcastle in 16th place, coming off a win at against Manchester United at home. Chelsea in 5th place now, coming off a win at Southampton 4-1, a team we just talked about. Taking a look at the history, Chelsea are 7-1-2 in their last 10 games versus Newcastle. They won both meetings last year versus Newcastle, and they also haven't lost at home to Newcastle since 2012. That's 13 games. Taking a look at the injuries for Newcastle, Matt Ritchie could return, still out though, it looks like. For Chelsea, Loftus-Cheek still out with that Achilles injury. Emerson, it looks like he's out. And Antonio Rudiger Looks like he's out with a groin injury. His return date is unknown. Newcastle, they got the big win versus Man United. Chelsea, though, have looked really, really good. Their only loss in the last 5 games came versus Liverpool, a 2-1 loss there. They beat Brighton 2-0, beat Southampton handily 4-1, beat Wolves handily 5-2. They did draw at Sheffield United 5 games ago, but I think that this Chelsea team is starting to really figure it out, and I think they found their stride here. And I don't think Newcastle is going to step in their path, especially on the road. I think Chelsea win this one, come out victorious. Moving on now. Norwich City at Bournemouth. The final 10 a.m. Eastern Time game, 3 p.m. Over in England. Norwich City currently sitting in 19th place, sandwiched in between Everton and Watford, who we've talked about already in that relegation zone. Bournemouth currently sitting mid-table at 10th place. Norwich, they are 23, 15, and 19 all-time, surprisingly, against Bournemouth. But they've only played each other 7 times since 2000. This is their first meeting in the Premier League since 2016. So not a lot of stuff recently to go off. Bournemouth injuries and suspensions, they've got a bunch of them. There's a ton of guys out for them, but they still managed to put together some really good results. Norwich, on the other hand, have not put together any good results. Since their win at versus Man City, they have lost the 3 games, have scored a combined 1 goal, and have given up a combined 9 goals. So Norwich struggling. Bournemouth, on the other hand, being Bournemouth, and playing at Bournemouth is a tough place to play, especially for a struggling team. We've seen that already this year with Everton. We've seen that with Everton. The draw, West Ham was in good form, came there and drew at Bournemouth. So with this one, I think, again, not too many draws that I'm seeing so far in this one. I think I'm going to go with the Bournemouth win in this one, just because Norwich City playing really bad, and Bournemouth doing their typical thing, keeping teams to a low amount of goals and just winning games in a fashion that they do all the time, gritty games and just pulling out wins. Moving on now to the one more 10 a.m. game on Saturday, 3 p.m. over in England. Burnley at Leicester, which is actually going to be a sneakily good one. Burnley currently sitting in 7th place, traveling to Leicester City, who's sitting in 4th place. They just lost to Liverpool. Burnley coming off a win versus Everton at home. Burnley only have 2 wins against Leicester since 2011. That's 15 games. The last Burnley win at Leicester was in 2007. Last year, there was a draw at Leicester, 0-0, and then Leicester beat Burnley at Burnley 2-1. Leicester's looked really good. Burnley has 2. If you look at Burnley's last 5 fixtures, they lost to Liverpool 3-0, but since then, draw at Brighton, win versus Norwich, draw at Aston Villa, and a win versus Everton. But I think that if you look at Leicester's resume, the last 5 games, they're a lot more impressive. Leicester won versus Bournemouth. They lost at Man United, but then beat Tottenham, beat Newcastle, and then have lost a tough one to Liverpool. This one's going to be interesting. I think that Burnley's defense is very, very important in this one. Danny Drinkwater could also return for Burnley, so that could be a spark for their team as well. I think that I am going to go with a draw in this one. I think I'm going to go with a draw. I think that Burnley can do enough defensively where they can pull out a point in this one. I don't think they can win it. I don't think they're going to get enough goals to win it. But I think that they can pull out a draw in this one and steal a couple points on the road at Leicester. So, because I just think that the defense for Burnley is a difference maker, and I think that it's a hard thing to break down. We'll see if Leicester can do it. Not many teams have been able to do it. But I'm going to say that they can't do it well enough, and I think that Burnley come out with a draw on this one. Moving on now to the 12:30 p.m. game, 5:30 over in England. Man City taking on Crystal Palace. And again, another shocking one in terms of places. Obviously, Man City in second place, which isn't too shocking. But Crystal Palace finding themselves in sixth place on a good run right now. Um, just looking at the stats, though, Crystal Palace did beat Man City at the Etihad last year 3-2. But it's their only win at Man City since 1990. The good news for them, they're not playing at Man City. They're playing at Crystal Palace. Um, they are 3-2-15 since 2000 versus Man City. Neither draw came at Man City. Both draws came at home, which is also a very good thing. Looking at this injury suspension, Stones looks like he's still going to be out. Laporte still out. Sane still out for Man City. Crystal Palace, Connor Wickham kind of up in the air. Nobody really knows the situation with him. Crystal Palace, as I mentioned, on a good run here. Won 3 of their last 5, drew versus Wolves, and lost at Tottenham. Those were the other 2 in their last 5. Man City, 2 losses in their last 5 against 2 teams that they should beat, especially a Wolves team at home. 2-0, not scoring a goal in that one. So, this one is an interesting one because, Crystal Palace have shown some real good fight this year, and they're in 6th place. But, as I said with the loss at Norwich and when Man City were playing Watford, I can't see Man City not coming out here, especially after the international break, and just firing on all cylinders and giving it to Crystal Palace. I got a Man City win in this one. I just see them, probably winning big after just playing so poorly against Wolves in match week 8. Moving on to Sunday now. Liverpool taking on Manchester United. This is a derby matchup. Northwest derby. 2 teams that absolutely hate each other. A great match. Liverpool in first place. Manchester United find themselves in 12th place on a very, very tough run. Liverpool haven't lost a game all year. United, on the other hand, 2 losses, 2 draws, and a win in their last 5. Their draws at Southampton, a loss at West Ham, a draw versus Arsenal, and then a loss at Newcastle. They did win at home versus Leicester, and luckily for them, this one will take place at home. LFC Liverpool, they're only 2-3-5 against Man United in their last 10. They haven't won at Man U since 2014. Last year, Liverpool won at home, and they drew at Man United. Some injury updates for them. Alisson could return this week, as well as Shaqiri for Man United. Bailey still out. Shaw unsure. Martial could be back this week, which would be a big boost for them. And Wan-Bissaka could be fit for this week as well. It depends on what Manchester United team decides to show up. If Martial is back and they can play like they were playing in the first half of some of the games at the beginning of the season for the full game, it's going to be a Manchester United draw, I think. Or I think it's going to be a draw or a Liverpool win. But I think either way, I'm going to go with a Liverpool win. I think Liverpool pull this one out. Probably close, but I think it's probably 2-1, 3-1 at the end. This Manchester United team is in terrible, terrible form, and I just can't see them pulling out a victory. A draw is possible, but I'm going with the Liverpool win. And then finally, the final game of the weekend is a Monday game. Arsenal traveling to Sheffield United. Arsenal, this will take place 3 p.m., by the way, Eastern time, 8 p.m. over in England. And by the way, the Liverpool-Manchester United game will take place 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, 4:30 over in England. But back to Arsenal at Sheffield United, the Monday game. Arsenal sitting in 3rd place, playing pretty well, and Sheffield United sitting in 13th place, playing pretty good soccer for them as well. This is their first meeting since 2008. Not much to go on here. Their last 10 meetings, though, 6-2-2 Arsenal is, but the 2 losses did come at Sheffield United. For Arsenal, the injury and suspensions, really for both these teams, the only injury and suspension to worry about is Lacazette with the ankle injury. He may be able to, I don't think he's able to return this week. I think he's got to wait another week. I think he's still got another week before he's able to return. as I mentioned, Arsenal in pretty good form. They haven't lost in their last 5 games, had the draw at Tottenham, or draw versus Tottenham, the draw at Watford, a win versus Aston Villa, a draw at Man United, and a win versus Bournemouth. Unfortunately for them, they haven't, the road fixtures over the last 5 have resulted in draws. Meanwhile, if you look at Sheffield United, draw at Chelsea, a loss at home versus Southampton, a win at Everton, a loss at home versus Liverpool, and then a draw at Watford. Their road look has been a lot better than them playing at home as well, although the loss versus Southampton and the loss versus Liverpool at home were both 1-0 losses. I'm going with a draw in this one. I'm going with a draw. I think that Arsenal goes to Sheffield United. I think Sheffield United's a really tough team to play, and it's a really tough place to play. Sheffield United's defense has been fantastic. If you look at their last 5 games, they gave up 2 goals to Chelsea, but other than that, one goal versus Southampton, no goals versus Everton, no goals versus Watford, and then the 1 goal versus Liverpool. 2 goals in their last 4 games, 4 goals in their last 6 games, and that's 5 games, and that's against Chelsea, Everton, Liverpool, teams that can score goals, even though Everton hasn't showed it. I think in the end, we're going to get a draw. I think the Sheffield United defense is going to make a difference in this one. They'll come out with a draw and a point, and an Arsenal will probably be a little disappointed, but come out with a point as well. All right, there you have it. That's your preview show. Hopefully we gave you tons of information to go on here as we move towards, as we go into match week 9 it is now. Moving along in the season, it's great. We're back from international break, and that's all you can really ask for as a Premier League fan. Go Yanks, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.